Hey, hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech. My name is Angelo and today I want to talk about why 40 FPS could be the new 60. And the reason I say that is because I think 40 FPS is a sweet spot for those that can achieve those 60 FPS without sacrificing too much because they have like entry-level PCs, but they don't want to play like at those filthy 30 FPS that are cinematographic, right? So why 40 FPS is the sweet spot? Let me explain. First, we need to understand the difference between frame time and frame rate, okay? FPS is one thing, frame time is another. If the logic says that if the middle point between 30 and 60 seems to be 45, right? Because if you add 30 plus 60, that's 90, and the middle point is 45. But that's when we're talking about frames, and what we are interested is in frame persistence. What does that mean? Well, if you have 30 frames per second, that means that you are showing 30 images on a second. If we divide 1 second between 30 images, that means in theory each image should be shown 0.033 seconds, okay, on the screen. And persistence is very important because you can have 30 frames per second but with bad frame time. That means, for example, that one image is being shown for 0.025 and the next one by 0.040 and the next one by 0.033 and so on, but they are exactly 30 FPS on 1 second. The problem with that approach is because each image is not being shown the exact same amount of time as the next one and the next one and the next one, that the frame rate still looks choppy. So it's important that frame time, frame persistence is very stable. So in this case, if we are talking about frame time, frame persistence, we have the fact that 1 second between 30 images is 0.033. But if we have 1 second between divided 60 images, that's 0.016, right? That's the persistence. So if we add 0.033 plus 0.016, that is 0.0499999999, right? That's 0.05. That's the persistence that we are looking for, that is the middle of the way. So if we divide 1 second between 40 images, that's 0.05. That's why 40 FPS is the middle point when we're talking about frame persistence, frame time, and why we are not talking about 45. And the good thing is that today's monitor, today is very easy to get a variable refresh rate monitor for even $100. And most people think of refresh monitor as something that goes to 120, 240 and very expensive gaming monitors. But the reality is that this is an office monitor. This is a very normal 4K office monitor, but that is just 60 Hz. However, it's 40 to 60 Hz variable refresh rate monitor, even though it's just an office monitor. It was one of the first 4K monitor I had. Now I have a 4K 144, and here I have a 1440p 120 Hz monitor. So all my monitors here are variable refresh rate, with this one going only to 40, from 40 to 60. So even this monitor will work with what I'm saying here. Even my TV is variable refresh rate. So if you have, or you can get any variable refresh monitor for not too much money, okay, then you can enjoy the benefits of playing at 40 FPS. And even if you have it now and have never thought about it, think about this, okay? You can get very fluid motion that is much better than 30 FPS, even if it's only 10 extra frames, but you can still get a much better image quality than you will get trying to achieve those 60 FPS. If you don't believe me, I have here some examples of how much we can improve the image by allowing ourselves to limit our frame rate to 40 FPS. So let's look at them. So the first game I'm testing as usual is Dying Light 2, which is a very well optimized game on an RTX 2060 Super, which is the GPU chosen for this testing. As you can see here, we can play at 1080p DLSS balance and with RT Ultra presets. So the game is being maxed out. And as you can see here, the frame is around 50 to 60. It's very well stable, but you know, it's not perfect. We are going, that GPU is 100% and we don't have any leeway in case anything more harder comes. But if we limit the game to 40 FPS, as you can see, we can have a much clearer image by using 1440p. Yes, we are also upping DLSS to performance, but I still think that DLSS performance at 1440p looks better than 1080p at balance, keeping the same RT preset. And as you can see there, our GPU is not being fully utilized. That means that we have some leeway in case anything harder comes. But also, if you want to maybe just use DLSS balance, you can do it and probably get around those 40 FPS the same. So as you can see, we have a very good start. Now, the next game I'm testing here is Hogwarts Legacy, and as you can see here, well, this game has come a long way because I didn't expect it to be able to play a 1440p DLSS balance with ultra preset at 60 FPS, which is not a bad result here. And as you can see, it's not perfect, but it's very, very playable. Of course, you're going to get around 50 sometimes on some areas, especially while flying and so on, but I don't think this is going to affect too much. However, if we limit at 40 FPS, we can have the exact same configuration, except that we can activate all RT effects on Ultra. That's something, because now we can have like better reflections, shadows, and ambient occlusion, and have a better looking game that is still quite smooth. Of course, you can use that extra power maybe for using less DLSS or a native resolution or any other thing you want, but this is the preset I chose, so that's, we can improve the game. On Horizon Forbidden West, we can play a 1440p DLSS performance on medium preset to get around 60 FPS. That they have some issues, little issues from time to time, but nothing major, and the game looks and runs quite well, all things considered. As you can see here, there are some slowdowns, but nothing major, as I said, just 50, let's say 55 to 60 FPS, which looks quite good. And well, this game looks phenomenal, to be honest. I just love the way this game looks. But then we can play at 40 FPS, we can limit to 40 FPS and up DLSS to balance and the preset to high. Here is not perfect. Maybe I was a little bit too aggressive. I should have kept DLSS on balance and up the preset to high, or the other way around. But in any case, the point is that we can improve the image quality via using a better DLSS or by using a high preset, or both, depending on your tolerance for some dips here and there. Now, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was one of the biggest changes here. So to get this 60 FPS here, I had to play a 1080p DLSS balance on the medium preset, which is not bad, and the game still looks quite good, but still, we have to use DLSS balance at 1080p on medium preset to even achieve those 60 FPS. So yeah, the game looks good and it runs well, but I think it's still very demanding in all the sacrifices you have to do. However, if we limit to 40, we can up the resolution to 1440p, keep the DLSS on balance, the preset on medium, but also activate RT reflections, which I think are very nice in this game because of all the metallic surface, and the game will look more realistic and more beautiful. We even have a higher resolution. So all in all, the change in this particular game is quite good by just sacrificing 20 FPS, but having just half the frame time. Alan Wake 2 is a game that to play at 60 FPS with this GPU, after all, they recommended this for 30 FPS, you have to go all the way to 1080p DLSS Ultra Performance at the low preset, and that's how you get 60 FPS in the worst case scenario, because there are other areas where this game will easily go above that. For some reason, the GPU is not using full performance, and I think it's because Ultra Performance, but on performance I wouldn't get 60 FPS in this game, so I had to do this. But at 40 FPS, you can up the DLSS to performance, up the resolution to 1440p, and up the preset to medium. So there are three areas that we have improved. Higher quality of DLSS, better resolution, and better settings, and this will affect a lot. Unfortunately, I always test the same area because this is the heaviest one I have found in the game, so I want just to show you the worst case scenario. But there are other areas that are going to benefit a lot from this change. Cyberpunk 2077 in this case is another game that you gain a lot by going to 40 FPS. In this case, we play a 1440p DLSS balance with the RT low preset, which only activates local RT shadows, and this is the results. It's not a perfect 60 FPS, but it's still quite playable, quite good. We have a very nice looking game with the effects we have available at the moment, at the time. So yeah, I would say this is a very good result at the end of the day. However, by going to 40 FPS, we can activate, keeping everything else the same, the RT shadows for the sun and the RT reflection, so giving us more RT effects. As you can see here, we can get those nice shiny reflection, but you can play with the settings. Maybe you want a little bit better resolution, maybe you don't go to 4K with DLSS performance without any RT or anything like that. It's probably doable at 40 FPS. So if you have seen, there is quite an improvement in many games going from 60 FPS to 40. Of course, you are not going, if you watch it, you may be saying, but it looked choppy, it didn't look like a smooth. The reason for that is because unfortunately, YouTube doesn't have a 40 FPS mode. So what you're seeing is 40 FPS in a 60 FPS container. So please, don't take the fluidity that you're seeing on this video as a proof of what I'm saying. Just take those videos as a proof of how much you can improve the image quality. But believe me, there is a lot of improvement in smoothness going from 30 to 40. But that's not the only benefit, that you get better quality graphics. You know, some of the games we were able to activate more than one ray tracing. Example, just using an RTX 2060, because I didn't want to use like the latest games. I just wanted to use like an entry-level GPU from many years ago that will give us a good performance, but also that is going to be very limited on achieving certain aspects in recent games. But that, as I said, is not the only benefit, because if you're playing at less frames, also means that you don't need such a powerful CPU. And this is another test that I'm doing, running some of the games I tested already in just an i7 6700K, which is a 9-year-old CPU with only 4-core 8-thread. Now here I'm using the Intel i7 6700K. And this is to show that going to 40 FPS also allows older CPU to, still be more than playable. In the case of Dying Light 2, we're at 40 FPS at the same setting as before, exactly the same, just changing the platform, the CPU, and we get those 40 FPS very stable with RT Ultra and everything on, which is quite good if you ask me. On Horizon Forbidden West, more of the same. We get 40 FPS, same settings as before, and the game just runs phenomenal on this. I'm sure the CPU wouldn't be enough for 60 FPS, but as you can see, we can reach 40 FPS, no issues whatsoever. Yeah, there could be areas where the CPU is not going to be that good or that performant, but in general, I think you're going to have a very good experience even if you have an old CPU. And when it comes to Cyberpunk, well, this is a game that I'm using the same settings, so there is a lot of RT effects, and we know how RT affects the CPU. And in this case, we are not there at 40 FPS, which you have removed some effect, but I wanted to test exactly the same. But you can just remove any RT effects and you're going to probably recover those missing FPS. But also, the point is, if you have any CPU a little bit more modern than this, you know you are more than covered with 40 FPS. And as you saw, some of the games run perfectly fine at 40 FPS even with that old CPU. Not all of them did. This, after all, is a 10-year-old CPU. But if you have anything newer, anything a little bit more decent, then 40 FPS will put a lot less strain on your CPU than 60. And you can get that flat frame time and have that smooth experience and enjoy your games in the best quality possible with your system. Of course, if you have a 4090, a very powerful rig, there is no point. This is not meant for you. This is meant for the people who wants to get like a middle point where 60 FPS is a little too much, because you can get to those 60 FPS without sacrificing too much image quality or on a stable way, but you don't want to play in those choppy and peasant 30 FPS where if you wanted that you will have bought a console instead of a PC, right? So yeah, 40 FPS is like the middle sweet spot that I would recommend you to try on your next game. I have played plenty of games at 40 FPS, limiting using MSI Afterburner. You can use your control panel from NVIDIA. You can use whatever you want to limit your frames at 40 FPS and then max out those graphics and enjoy a very good image and very good performance. So I hope this video invites you to experiment with 40 FPS, and then let me know in the comments if you have tried and how you feel about it, and if you think this is going to, you know, be your new goal for many games that maybe are not playing as good as you expect them to. Also, and just this to end the video, NVIDIA recommends 40 FPS as the lower ceiling for using frame generation. So even if you have, you know, a newer card that supports frame generation like the 4060, on many games you can limit the frame rate to 40 and then use frame generation to take it to 70 or 80, and you know, still enjoy a very good quality image, because I have tested myself and it runs quite decent. So you can experiment with that too. So I hope that you like this video, and as always, please subscribe, like it, and all those things that help me to grow. We are very, very close to 1,000. Please help me get there. I will really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.